Lewis Hamilton shocks Ferrari after qualifying in Austin. Frédéric Vasseur discovers an unexpected flaw inside the SF-25 something that could change the direction of the entire season. The 7-time world champion fought the car, defied the limits, and still dragged it into the top 5. And now, the truth behind Ferrari's mysterious performance drop finally comes to light. The Texas sun was merciless over the circuit of the Americas, the asphalt shimmering like molten glass. In that furnace of speed, Lewis Hamilton, the man who made perfection look easy, climbed into a car that seemed to want anything but victory. The Ferrari SF-25 twitched through the corners, heavy on entry and nervous on exit, yet Hamilton held it with hands that have mastered 1,000 unpredictable machines. Lap after lap, he fought physics itself. When the checkered flag waved, he had done the impossible again, 5th place, in a car that barely deserved the top 10. But the number on the timing sheet told only half the story. Inside the Ferrari garage, silence replaced the usual applause. Engineers gathered around the monitors, confused. The data made no sense. The car that had looked so balanced in practice had suddenly lost stability in qualifying. Frédéric Vasseur, standing behind the rows of screens, folded his arms. He has seen this before. Numbers lying, sensors hiding a truth buried somewhere in the machinery. "Check the aero load curves again," he said quietly. The graphs showed it clearly. The SF-25 was losing downforce at the front where none should be lost. Something invisible was stealing Hamilton's confidence mid-corner. What happened next was the moment every engineer fears and every leader dreads. Vasseur ordered a rapid inspection of Hamilton's chassis. 10 minutes later, the chief technician approached him, pale. The problem wasn't software. It wasn't temperature. It was mechanical. A minute flex in the front anti-roll bar, mounting a part no bigger than a hand, was altering the balance of the car through every change of direction. The effect was tiny, but in Formula One, tiny is everything. Every time Hamilton turned in, the car's front end shifted just enough to rob him of bite, forcing him to improvise his way through corners at 200 kilometers per hour. Hamilton had felt it from the first lap. His radio messages during Q2 were calm but revealing. Front grip inconsistent, feels like the nose moves. To anyone else, those words might have sounded like frustration. To Vasseur, they sounded like diagnosis. That's why he had trusted Hamilton from the start. The British champion's feel for the car is legendary, almost unnatural. He doesn't just react, he senses imbalance before it happens. And as the data confirmed his instincts, the truth became undeniable. Hamilton wasn't fighting adaptation or age. He was fighting a defective car. When the news reached him, Hamilton simply nodded. No anger, no complaints. "I knew something was off," he said, voice calm, eyes sharp. That composure impressed everyone in the garage. After months of confusion, Ferrari finally had a reason, and it came from the driver who refused to stop believing there was logic behind chaos. Vasseur walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You were right, Lewis," he said quietly. "It's not you. It's us." In that simple exchange, respect replaced doubt. For the first time all season, the team felt united behind its new leader. Ferrari's weekend in Austin revealed what the stopwatch alone could not: a structural weakness in the SF-25 that had haunted both cars for months, but punished Hamilton more than anyone else. From the first laps of qualifying, the signs were there. Through the high-speed Essies of Sector 1, the car lacked consistency. The nose bit sharply into Turn 3, but washed out completely in Turn 5. The steering wheel trembled, feedback inconsistent, leaving Hamilton to catch slides that should never have existed. By the time he reached the long braking zone of Turn 11, he had already lost almost 2/10. The rest of the lap became a damage control exercise, guided purely by instinct. The telemetry told the same story with brutal clarity. Ferrari's engineers saw oscillations in the front ride height graph, small spikes, just millimeters, but enough to destroy aerodynamic flow. The SF-25's floor, designed to work within a microscopic tolerance of height, was being unsettled every time Hamilton changed direction. The cause, as Vasseur would later confirm, came from an overly rigid anti-roll bar support that fractured its own mounting under load, changing the stiffness balance from left to right. This meant the car had two personalities, compliant on one side, aggressive on the other. For a driver, it's a nightmare. The front would grip into one corner and vanish in the next. What made the issue harder to detect was that the problem only appeared under certain dynamic conditions, high G-loads, and a very specific range of tire pressure and temperature. During practice, with softer inputs and different fuel levels, the car behaved normally. But when Hamilton attacked flat out in qualifying, the hidden fault came alive. Ferrari's aerodynamicists had been chasing phantom drag in simulations, convinced the data was lying. It wasn't the air that was wrong, it was the chassis itself. The SF-25 wasn't deforming symmetrically under load. It was twisting. And that meant the flow beneath the car, which generates over 60% of its downforce, was being disrupted in real time. For Hamilton, the experience behind the wheel was maddening. "It's not consistent," he told his engineer during Q2. "Sometimes I turn in and it grips, sometimes it just floats." Those few words captured months of frustration. Every driver can adapt to oversteer or understeer, but unpredictability is the enemy. It destroys rhythm, timing, and confidence. The radio was calm, but the message was urgent. Something was fundamentally wrong. And it wasn't about style or adaptation. The team had spent weeks trying to tailor the car to him, adjusting camber, diff maps, brake bias, even steering geometry, believing his smooth driving style was incompatible with Ferrari's sharp front end. The truth was simpler. Hamilton was right all along. The problem wasn't how he drove, it was what he was driving. Inside Ferrari's engineering room, Vasseur's reaction was immediate. He demanded a structural audit of both SF-25 chassis, starting with Hamilton's. He ordered data from the dynamometer, from the 7-post rig in Maranello, and from the assembly line. What he found infuriated him. The anti-roll bar mounting used in Hamilton's car was part of a small batch produced with slightly higher carbon density than planned, stiffer, yes, but less flexible under torsion. It was a manufacturing variation so tiny that no one had noticed during inspection. Yet that detail had rewritten the car's behavior completely. "We have been fighting ghosts," Vasseur admitted to his engineers. It was the kind of mistake that erodes confidence not only in the car, but in the system itself. And yet, the way Hamilton handled it transformed the crisis into a turning point. Instead of frustration, he brought clarity. His feedback in Austin's debrief session was precise and structured. He described how the front-end load disappeared mid-turn, how the car's pitch balance shifted under braking, and how the rear tires overheated as a consequence. Every note matched what the telemetry later confirmed. That alignment between feel and data reminded everyone at Ferrari of why Hamilton was brought to Maranello, not just to win, but to guide. As one engineer said, he doesn't just drive the car, he reads it. By the end of the night, Vasseur had issued a new directive. All chassis tolerances for the SF-25 were to be rechecked before Mexico. A new batch of anti-roll bar mountings would be produced within 48 hours. Hamilton's car would receive the first corrected assembly. For a team long trapped between hope and confusion, it was the first step toward control. They had found the problem, understood its cause, and perhaps most importantly, rediscovered faith in their driver's judgment. By midnight, the results were undeniable. The defective anti-roll bar mounting caused a 6% imbalance in front lateral stiffness when the car exceeded 2.5 GS precisely in the range of Austin's high-speed corners. That meant Hamilton's SF-25 was aerodynamically asymmetrical at full speed. On the simulator, the engineers watched the numbers fluctuate. A car that should have been stable became unpredictable beyond 240 kilometers per hour. It wasn't driver confidence that had vanished, it was aerodynamic truth itself. Vasseur's jaw tightened as he read the report. "We build a car that lies to the driver," he said quietly. "That ends now." From that moment, Ferrari's technical structure began to change. Vasseur ordered a complete review of the quality control chain from Maranello to trackside. Every suspension element, every carbon bracket, every sensor calibration point would be revalidated under new tolerances. The man who once ran Sauber with spreadsheets now ran Ferrari with emotion, but controlled, methodical emotion. He understood that to win with Hamilton, the team had to become as precise and as honest as the man himself. And that meant no more hiding behind data, no more blaming adaptation. If Lewis says it's wrong, assume he's right, Vasseur told his engineers. Then prove him right. Hamilton, meanwhile, stayed longer than anyone expected. Instead of leaving for the hotel, he sat in the back of the garage with his race engineer Riccardo Adami, going over onboard videos frame by frame. His notes were astonishingly detailed. He pointed out how the steering angle corrected itself mid-corner, a clear sign of front-end load inconsistency. "See this? The car wants to turn twice," he explained calmly. "That's the flex. You can't feel it from the data, but I can feel it through the wheel." For Ferrari's younger engineers, it was a masterclass. They weren't watching a driver complain, they were watching a champion diagnose. By dawn, Ferrari had already built a virtual twin of the SF-25 with corrected stiffness parameters. The simulation showed what the team had been missing all season: stability. In the corrected model, the car gained nearly 0.2 per lap purely from consistency. For a Formula One team, 0.2 is not a number, it's a revelation. Hamilton was informed during the morning debrief. He didn't smile, but his eyes said everything. "Let's get to Mexico," he said simply. "Let's see what the car really is." That quiet confidence spread through the garage like oxygen. What impressed everyone most was Hamilton's composure. No drama, no ego. He didn't ask for apologies or demand headlines. Instead, he focused on solutions. "The car's got potential," he told Vasseur. "We just need to unlock it without breaking it." The engineers took those words seriously. For months they had treated Hamilton as an outsider adapting to Ferrari's system. After Austin, that perception evaporated. He was no longer the new driver. He was the center of the rebuild. Vasseur even reorganized the team hierarchy so that Hamilton's feedback went directly to the technical director, skipping intermediate channels. "He's earned that right," said Vasseur. "If you hire a 7-time world champion, you listen to him."